This episode is brought to you by True Patriot. True Patriot is setting the standard for Patriot lifestyle apparel. 100% made in the USA. At True Patriot, it's more than just great shirts. It's about the mission, supporting our nation's veterans and families. Are you a veteran-based organization, nonprofit, or small business? Let them help you with your fundraising and custom shirt needs. Check out True Patriot today at truepatriot.com. TRUPatriot.com. And now, to the Kensington Corner.
Good morning. Welcome to Kensington Corner. Tom here. Today I have Kevin Flike, retired Green Beret, wounded in combat, MIT, Harvard alum, public speaker, and author. Kevin, how are you doing today, man?
I'm doing great, especially given these crazy times, man. I feel pretty blessed to have my family here, be safe, and get to spend a little more time with them right now.
Yeah, I agree. I've been checking in back and forth. My mom's actually still working right now. She runs a convenience store back home, and checking in with her, seeing how they're doing. It's from where I'm at, it seems like they've been way more impacted than I have. The Midwest really hasn't. Our grocery stores are pretty stocked. Everything here is pretty normal, except for restaurants and gyms not being open. My family's back in North Carolina, and the grocery stores there in this small town are pretty depleted right now.
So yeah, I'm located in Boston now, on the South Shore of Boston, and this area has been hit pretty bad in terms of some of the cases, especially inside of Boston. You go to the grocery stores; they're pretty well stocked, but obviously it's not as much as normal. And I think people around here have been doing a really good job keeping a cool head on things, trying to make the best out of the situation that they are. And I think one of the things, I always try to look at the positives in a negative situation, is you're seeing a lot of people just putting others above themselves, right? A huge tenet that I learned as a young man going to an all-boys Catholic military school, and I try to live my life by it. And so you're seeing some incredible acts occur, some ordinary people doing extraordinary things out there. And, I also think that you're going to really see like first responders, nurses, doctors, a lot of these people really start to get respect to their own.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think, and that's something I think for a long time we kind of take for granted. I don't know if you've been watching the whole Italian thing play out, but I've spent the last 2 summers over there, working in hospitals. And I saw just the other day that they're going to graduate this next incoming medical class early because they're so short right now on medical personnel. And I think sometimes we take for granted in America how we're as far as expense wise, we're up there in the world, but as far as putting people out there, we're still a little short. But nurses have stepped up, doctors have stepped up. It's been quite amazing to kind of see the support that they've gotten. I'm actually pretty appreciative that they've gotten some support from this.
Yeah, I mean, even look at my wife. She's a nurse by trade. She has 2 master's degrees already. She's working on her PhD. Her PhD is going to focus. It's going to be in nursing. It's going to focus on women's homelessness and healthcare issues. And she got asked to volunteer on the weekends to go to the women's homeless shelter that she used to work at and help with screening. So she's answering the call, and she'll start this weekend.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, it's funny how it affects different people, man, because so my girlfriend she's out in Hays, Kansas, and they're predominantly an older crowd, and they're keeping the dermatologist office that she works at out there open because there's so many skin cancer things being, West Kansas farmers, all this stuff. But they also have to take these extra precautions because the patients are so much older. A lot of their patients are in their 80s with skin cancer. They're of course going to be more susceptible to this virus than most people.
Yeah, no, I agree, man. It's amazing, I think, to see just people stepping up right now, rallying around the communities, putting others above themselves, and always try to look. We gotta get out of the mindset of looking at the negatives of the situation and try to look at the positives. And I think that's how, as a community, as a country, we can really rally around this and get through this and come out of it better people, better country, better world.
Yeah, and you're seeing it too on social media. I mean, that's the thing is that there's always going to be negative no matter what. But a lot of I've seen a lot of fitness, diet, community as far not only just I mean helping the community too, take out food, take out coffee. Like I have a buddy here owns a coffee shop, and he ended up having to shut it down. And then what's he do? Within 3 weeks, he says, "Okay, I'm going to do this, but then I'm going to start a." Basically like a drive-through service at this other location, and so he got that all going within like 3 weeks, knocked it out. So I think you're starting to see a lot of resiliency and a lot of people are using tools that I don't think that they've had in their toolbox, but they never had to use before, and now they're throwing them out there, and it's like you're starting to see people bounce back and really, I think, adjust to the setting, and it's kind of amazing to watch.
Yeah, I mean, I think it speaks right to like American ingenuity,
right?
Like this country, for the most part, was built on, people that were willing to risk everything to leave what they knew to come to a place where they had no friends, no family, no relatives, very uncertain futures. I think that just kind of speaks to like the American spirit and the entrepreneurship that takes place in this country. And it's in most people's DNA. I mean,
oh no, it is. Well, and right now we're really and I've said this before on the podcast, but I really think we're in like a golden age of entrepreneurship right now too. And it's crazy when we take a hit like this to the economy, but to see people really bouncing back. And I think that when we look forward, and it's kind of dark right now, but I think when we look forward July, August, September, a lot of people are going to be getting themselves pats on the back because they're going to look back at it and be like, man, that really sucked. That was really tough, but we kind of came out of it unscathed. And I think it's going to set people up better. It's going to better prepare people for the future too, because I don't think a lot of people were ready for this. When it hit, I'm not sure a lot of people were like, man, I was really prepared. There's very few people that can say that.
No, I mean, I completely agree. I think there's going to be a lot of negative effects of this on business, but ultimately too, though, you're going to see a lot of that entrepreneurship come out of this, and you're going to see great things, I think, come out of it. And, it's really up to the individual, right? I think as to how you're going to use this crisis. Blaine Smith, a friend of mine, does a lot of work at the Green Beret Foundation, Go Ruck. I used to be the president of Team Red, White, and Blue. It was like, he posted an article the other day that said the crisis is a terrible thing to waste.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And so this is just an opportunity, I think, for individuals to go out there and better themselves. And you're going to have a lot more time on your hands.
Yeah.
I've cut 2.5 hours of commuting. Another half hour that I normally prep to go into Boston every day. I'd be in 3 hours back in my day.
Yeah.
So really up to me as to how I want to use those hours, right? I'm trying to catch up on sleep, trying to spend more time with my family, but also trying to work on projects that I just didn't have the time to do, right?
Yeah. No, I agree, man. Well, and I've seen it all around. It's crazy because I've only been driving outside, probably 3 or 4 times since this all happened. I haven't had to go anywhere. I've gone to the grocery store maybe twice. I'm pretty stocked. I'm good. But seeing I've seen more people outside the last 4 times driving than I have in the previous 4 years of living here. Yeah. As far as doing, not just walking Main Street or anything, but actually like outside exercising, doing stuff. And it's kind of weird, but I told someone the other day that there's 2 things there's the negative side of it, which I can't believe that it took a crisis for people to get outside and want to run. But then the positivity of it is at least they're not just sitting home. They're saying, hey, this sucks. I died. And that's the thing too, is that I don't look at it from that. Maybe the people I do see outside are the hour commuter to KC and back every day that usually don't have the time to do this. And now they're out running, but it's, I think that if you're not taking advantage of the time that you're giving right now, you're making a very, very bad mistake.
Yeah, I completely agree, right? Like, take care of your physical fitness, take care of your family, take care of your faith during this time frame, and then start to come up with ideas, right? If you've always said you wanted to learn another language or learn how to play the guitar, what an incredible time to do that, or work on ideas that you have, right? Because the economy will eventually bounce back, right? We're still going to need business. We still need entrepreneurship. Like, work on the ideas that you have and utilize your time wisely here.
No, I
also watch Tiger King too, though. I mean,
dude,
I'm not gonna lie, I had to watch that also on Netflix too.
What did you think about it? I'm just curious. And I don't even know if you saw this or not, but they just announced last night that Carol's husband, the missing case, that sheriff's department opened it back up yesterday.
I knew that was gonna happen.
And so I was like, oh, here it goes. It's over.
What a wild documentary. I just started to think about what my life would look like if I was a big cat owner.
Dude, I started thinking about it, and I told somebody, I was like, man, I could buy 2, 3, maybe 4 tigers right now, dip into it a little bit, give me about 4 of them. And I was like, oh my, like, if you really think about it, I was like, man, but I just think that those are those are some resilient humans. They're a different breed, man. I was watching that, and the whole time I was like, man, just different. And the thing is that the one of the guys on our team, he was born in that town in Oklahoma.
Oh,
yeah, that's where he's adopted, and he lives in Houston now, but he was adopted from that town, and he was just cracking up because he still has not watched it yet. And me and Corey are like, Sam, you gotta watch this, man. And it's funny for him because he's like, yeah, it could have been me, man. I told him, I was like, you would have got married to Joe Exotic out here running the Tigers, dude.
So I'm thinking about bringing Joe Exotic on as my life coach if he ever gets out of prison.
Dude, we were talking about it the other day, and Corey goes, man, we should call the jail and see if we can get like an interview with him.
That'd be great.
I was like, yeah.
So, I bet you there's a waiting list to talk to him now.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I heard that the one guy, his campaign manager, might be getting his own like reality TV show or something. And I was like, and the guy had like maybe 4 minutes in the documentary, but apparently, what I just the memes that have come from it have been my favorite, like by far.
Great. Yeah. Great memes. Great comedy here. Just some interesting stuff. And I think it's another thing too, where I see it and like, I guess I've come to the realization I'll just never be surprised.
No, never. No, never. A Ranger bat buddy of mine's overseas right now, and he was saying something, and at first I thought he was just like making a cruel joke, but apparently there is a show called like Crip Camp. And I was like, what is this? And he's like, oh, it's kids who have a disability, but they are like smoking meth and doing. And I was like, what are we talking about? And he's like, no, it's a real show. I'm not making this up. And I was like, oh my God. And so I was telling Sam about it, and Sam was like, that cannot be real. And I was like, yeah, it is, man. It's a real show. And of course, Corey goes, oh yeah, I've watched that. Yeah, that's real. And I was like, oh my God.
Well, I'll put that on my queue. My queue is pretty long right now, given the quarantine here.
I don't think that one's going to make my queue, to be honest.
It's at the bottom.
It's at the very bottom of it. I hopped in Tiger King just because, it was getting all the play, and I said, we'll see, and I was not I don't think anybody, the thing was, nobody was expecting it. I don't think it was just an expectation of anybody to come up with that. So, and it dropped at the perfect time. If Netflix had planned to drop that the whole time, would it have got as much clout as it did without the virus? I don't know.
Joe Exotic, he helped plan the release date.
I saw Cardi B is campaigning to get him out of prison.
Yeah, she's starting a GoFundMe page for him.
Yes, good. I hope that happens, and I hope that he drops a country album. I hope that's where it goes from here. No, I don't know, but that's another thing, speaking to just like genuine Americans. I think that I don't think anyone that I know relates to that, but there was so much in that documentary that you could that you related to on a surface. Like it was hilarious. I talked about, I had a 2-hour podcast the other day with a guy, and I think him and I talked about it for like 30 minutes, and he hates it. He literally, I saw him post something on social media yesterday where he was just like, Tiger King's really not that good. You guys are just boring. And I was like, nah, it's really that.
Yeah.
So I guess my big thing is that once we haven't got it, I'm glad we got to talk about it a little bit more before we hopped into your story. But one thing I was curious about with you is, how did you get hooked up with the TB12?
Yeah. So, I was a Green Beret. I spent 2 years training from 07 to 09. Went out to the 1st Special Forces Group out of Fort Lewis. The area of focus that we had was Asia. Mm-hmm. So, my language was Mandarin Chinese. Every Green Beret knows at least one language. The Green Berets, and this is what really attracted me to them, was, their motto, De Oppresso Liber, to free the oppressed. You work on these 12-man teams. You're basically a consultant for the United States military. You go to foreign countries to train their militaries and their militias. And then you're going to, in the case of Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, you're going to fight side by side with those guys. And so for me, like, that was just everything I wanted to do with my life. Enlisted right after college. My language was Mandarin. Went out to first group. Deployed pretty much immediately to the Philippines, Afghanistan, Thailand, and then back to Afghanistan, all within a 2.5 year time frame. So pretty impacted. Married the whole time to my wife. You can imagine the strain that puts on your marriage when you're gone 75% of the year. And my last deployment to Afghanistan, it's supposed to be 11 months. It was going to be the longest special operation deployment of the GWAT. I got shot 7 months into it. And right below the body armor, took a round, and the way that it hit my femoral nerve. So you can imagine, right? Your femoral nerve and femoral artery are running right next to each other. So just a little bit over, it hit the artery. There's no saving you. It's too high up. It hits the nerve, though, paralyzes my left leg, goes through my hip, fractures my hip, and gets lodged in my left butt cheek. So due to the courage and heroism of the Afghans that I worked with, the commandos, my teammates, right, they stabilized me, got me to safety, did the whole thing of going to field hospitals, going to Bagram, going to launch school, waking up, asking people where I was. First thing I asked them if I went to heaven or hell, because I was pretty sure I could die. And that really, very elated, obviously, to be alive, but that started a pretty long journey for me. So I had 20% of my colon removed. The hip was fractured and the leg was paralyzed, right? They did some pretty intense physical therapy, 4 to 6 hours a day, months on end. And ultimately, my stomach healed, my hip healed, but my leg began to atrophy to the point that was the size of my left arm. So I took a consult with the University of Washington Neurology Clinic. There was one place in the country that would take my case, the Mayo Clinic.
Nice.
Which they're a ton of pub right now for obviously the work they're doing with the virus. And I have to say that place is unreal. The treatment and care that I got there was amazing. So they did a nerve graft. They took a nerve from my left leg, cut my stomach open again. You can think kind of like replacing train grafts. Like there was some damaged railroad ties, and they needed to put some new ones in. So they took this nerve from my left leg and grafted it in, and then in hopes that the train could start to move down the track again and it would grow back. So over the course of 18 months, was able to get full extension back to my left leg. Some pretty grueling physical therapy, 6 hours a day. But just to be able to have that extension back, that was great. But ultimately, what ended up happening is, your body, human body, it adapts to situations. That's why we're still here. So I relearned how to walk, how to navigate stairs, do all these things. I had to create a lot of bad habits to do that because my leg, I had no quad function. So once you get your quad functioning back, right, it's like strengthening that leg up and essentially trying to get rid of all these bad habits that you needed to learn to be able to walk again and function. And so, I went to grad school as soon as I retired. That was in 2013. My last 2 years spent just doing surgeries and physical therapy. Went to grad school, and things kind of took a backseat in terms of like my physical prowess or physical fitness and recovery. I'm doing dual masters at Harvard and MIT. I've never worked harder in my life to like finish in last place. Just like every day, I give myself a pep talk and be like, all right, you really want to go do this today? Because you're going to get embarrassed. As soon as you open your mouth, you're going to get embarrassed.
So when I was talking to med schools, I talked to UCLA, right? And that's literally what one of the advisors told me. He was like, hey man, just remember that like if you do get accepted here, that the top 3 percentile go here for med school. So just be prepared for that. And in my head, I was like, yeah, I'll probably just go somewhere else.
Dude, it was just like going to take a beating, getting kicked in the teeth every day. My wife and I had our first kid a week before midterms in the first term of business school. And, so it was a pretty humbling experience for me. Was able to get through it, started working. And so now I would say probably about 5.5, 6 years post injury. And, starting a family, grad school, starting a career, like that was kind of the top priority, right? I think in the military, you're always taught that, when you're in a leadership position, everybody else's needs are more important than yours. Right. And take that as a focus with my life and with my family. And, Christmas of 2016, I had to watch my kids open up their gifts when I lay on the floor because my back hurt so bad. And then had to apply myself with muscle relaxer the rest of the day. Couldn't even play with them. So to me, that was a big wake up call where I was like, man, I understand what you're trying to do. I understand that you're trying to put everybody else's needs above your own, but if you're not putting your needs at the top in terms of your fitness, mental, emotional fitness, you're going to be nothing to nobody.
Right.
And so really tried to change my mindset there, not as like a selfish act, but as an act of love, and really start to focus on those things, that I was at with physical therapy for those 2 years in the Army, move back into like meditation, yoga, a lot of these holistic things that were very helpful for my mindset. And right around this time where I started really trying to make this shift, I was introduced to Alex Guerrero, the co-founder of Team Sport, who was Tom Brady's trainer. And I went in skeptical to the whole situation, but at that point, I felt like I tried a lot of stuff. And, unfortunately, there's a lot of negative publicity out there, all unwarranted. After one visit of going there, I was like, wow, I feel really good. I went in there and just said to them, like, I don't want to be in pain anymore. And they're like, yeah, we did that. Of course, I don't want to be in pain. What do you want to do after that? And so it was a different mindset where it was like, hey, what do you want to do rather than tell me what I couldn't do?
Right.
So after one visit, I bought in completely to the whole program, did the dietary stuff that they told me to do. And then, when I went to talk to Alex about how much it was going to cost, like, man, for you, nothing. Like, you've already paid enough. So they've worked with me extensively for the past 30 years with the goal of running the marathon. I was training for Boston Marathon, April 20. We'll have to restart the training back from day one to do it in September, but we've been working extensively with the TB12 team, and we are also able to bring a partnership between the Green Beret Foundation and 12 to be able to send Green Berets to receive this care. And so we're just kind of at the initial stages of that.
That's
we're
awesome.
able to set 20 of them through in November, and we want to start working toward a possible program for guys all over the country to be able to come in and receive this care from them.
That's awesome. Yeah, I had not realized that. That's great, man. Because I said this when I was talking to Travis from Alpha Elite, but it's ironic in a way, but I'm glad to see it. But the last 10 years of veteran care outside of the VA has just escalated. I mean, I think people are starting to get more informed, and not that they didn't care prior. I don't think that there were avenues that people really knew how. I think there was a big how do we do this, and I really think you're starting to see, and I think the special operations community is leading it in a way, is you're starting to see a lot of guys who are getting out now that were part of the last two wars, and they're helping their brothers and sisters out in different ways now. Whereas I can't remember, and maybe just because social media, maybe because of my age, but I don't remember 10 years ago it being the same way it is now. I don't remember that. And I don't remember seeing people, Travis sending people down for TBI, now TB12 coming together with Green Beret Foundation. It's humbling, one, and two, it means a lot to me because it's something that we fight for. But I'm glad to see you guys getting taken care of in that way. It's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I think back to like when I was hurt back in 2000, into 2011, going into 2012, and there's just been massive changes in it just from then. Which is great, right? Like, I think
it's awesome.
I've tried to help out as much as I can to advocate for different things. And I know, I even think of guys back in like 03, 04, the beginning stages of the war, and like how little care that they had. And they really paved the way, I think, for veterans to get the proper care they need.
Yeah, I think back because my dad will be 74 in August, and he's a Vietnam vet, and 2019 was the first year he'd ever been to the VA.
Wow.
Insane, absolutely insane. But I think, a lot of they had a different view of government than we did. But then you look at guys, and you're right. I mean, I think back to 03, 04. I graduated in 06, 07, and so a couple guys, guys that were with me in high school that went, they would. I don't remember them. They were kind of the first wave of guys who had this negative appearance of the VA.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of, I mean, besides maybe Kosovo, some special operations stuff, you didn't have the influx of soldiers going into the VA that we do now. And I commend a lot of these other places that are stepping up. I don't know. I mean, you're up there in the Northeast. Have you heard of Headstrong at all?
Yeah, I've heard of Headstrong.
Okay.
Unfortunately, they don't have a presence in Boston.
No, it's more of a New York type area, and I know they're trying to expand. And then, with the mental health thing, and then we have a thing that actually originated here in Kansas City that's going to be hopping up in other cities. It's called the Veterans Community Project, and they are. It's all. I see a lot of foundations now, and of course, we latched onto the Green Beret Foundation just because it meant something to us moving forward. And we had a guy that got out a couple months ago, Jeremiah, and he came on the show, and he's doing the Grand Traverse for the Green Beret Foundation, raising money. And that was the first thing he said. Like, we were just talking nonchalantly before the show, and he was like, "Hey man, like, I really appreciate you guys shouting out Green Beret Foundation, because when I got out, they did the most for me, that like things that I didn't even expect. They helped me transition out. They're helping me with my healthcare." He was like, "These are things that I did not expect from this." And he was like, I'll vouch for them 100%. And I was like, "Yeah, man, me too." I was like, we from day one talking to Green Beret Foundation and trying to help other people out. That's the first thing we do. When I get people to message our Instagram, I push them to Green Beret Foundation, if they can help in any way. I just think that the last 4 or 5 years, it's really been, kind of a turnaround for not only the VA, but for outside foundations helping out. It's been great to see.
Yeah, I think that's definitely right. And I also think, like, the things that I've changed, right? Because I say, like, physical therapy, working out, medicine is kind of my amateur hobby as to like all the, because, like, ultimately, right, like, I just was never satisfied with answers that I would get until I got the answer that I wanted.
Yeah.
So it led me on this massive exploratory journey of, all right, seeing diet, like this person, that person, reading this article, getting blood work done. And I think what we're really seeing now is, instead of just treating symptoms, now we're trying to get to the root cause of things and actually make people better, right?
Yeah.
Like, Andrew Marr of the Warrior Angels Foundation, he and I were in First Special Forces group together, linked up with him at the end of grad school. And I was having a lot of problems, man. Like, I wasn't sleeping at night. I was in pain all the time, having panic attacks, couldn't lose weight, had no energy. And I think for a lot of veterans, like, an easy catch-all for them is to say, well, you have post-traumatic stress, you have depression, which is, very likely for many vets, especially combat. But I'm like, yeah, that's probably it, but there's still got to be something else going on.
Right.
Was able to link up with him. He linked me up with Dr. Mark Gordon. They did a full blood workup on me. And it turned out, like, my hormones were just completely off, right? Yep. Like, body barely producing testosterone, growth hormone levels dangerously low, vitamin D, thyroid wasn't functioning, cortisol levels through the roof. And it's just crazy, right, that it took 5 years for somebody to run a test like that. But thankfully now, those are the areas that we're starting to look at now for answers and provide real care to people, rather than, a bag of prescription drugs, and essentially turn somebody into, a comatose state for the rest of their life.
Yeah, no, it's funny because when I got med boarded out, the surgeon was great. Don't get me wrong. It was the afterward effect, but I had just a basically cartilage infusion is what I call it. I had a microfracture surgery on the PCL. Now the PCL, it's a little different than MCL, ACL when you tear it, right? It's a little different on the inside. And but I remember sitting there and then being like, "Hey man, you'll probably never run again, and you're probably never gonna be able to squat again." And I was like, that can't be true. I'm an athlete, so I know these things. And I was like, that cannot be true. And so he was like, yeah, take 15, 21 months before it'll be about 100% again, if it ever gets to 100%. And then we'll see And then, I went through that, man, and I got done, and I was the same way. I was like, there's no way this is possible. And I would say probably right now, knee strength wise, it's probably stronger than it was before, the injury, or I mean, after the injury, before the surgery. But I think that a lot of guys, they get caught in the routine of just, hey, this guy's a doctor. Hey, this guy is in this position of power. We should just listen to him. And I have so many friends who are just so hyped up on pain pills, man. And I'm like, dude, there's other routes. There's other things you could be doing.
I think one of the big lessons I learned early on was, you're your own best advocate.
Always.
Right? Because nobody's going to understand the situation that you're in better than yourself. And nobody's got to live with like what's happening to you,
right?
Except for yourself. Yeah. And so, I just was super lucky, man, from the beginning to have a wife who stuck with me through everything. Even though I asked her for a divorce at one point while she's giving me a sponge bath, and she's like, "No, asshole, I'm giving you a sponge bath right now." And even I was lucky too. They had the Thor 3 initiative essentially for the special operations units, where they took like major college, athletics trainers and brought them to the special forces and top physical therapists. I was able to do everything in house. So to be able to have access to that, I mean, I wouldn't be able to probably walk right now if it wasn't for those 2 years I got to spend with the first special forces through Thor 3 folks. And I just consider myself really blessed, man, to have had such an amazing support network throughout all of this.
Well, and you had the right mindset too. A lot of it's mindset, man. When you're pushing through stuff, my biggest advocacy that I've tried to push for is trying to, when you're talking about the mental health stigma, is trying to get guys to realize that, if they are dependent on alcohol or drugs right now, that there is a way out of it. There's a mentally we can build up and get you out of it. And I think a lot of people succumb to the fear of that they're never going to get better. Once you have told yourself, once you've succumbed to that and you've said it'll never get any better for me, that's usually the downfall. But if you can kind of piece it together and say, hey man, I can fight out of this, I can get out of this mentally, I want to be better. If you just know you want to be better, a lot of times you can kind of fight your way out of it. But it's a pitfall, man. It's a vicious cycle.
I think there's a couple things, right? Like you lose hope, right? Like that's hoping, there's no end in sight. That's essentially the definition of losing hope. And then a lot of times these guys, you're from the military, you've done amazing things, heroic things. And you're in your mind, you're wondering like, why can't I handle this?
Right.
Like, why am I a coward or something like that? And then you think you're the only person experiencing it, but people are putting on their exterior, which is a huge reason I do what I do. I want people to very much understand how hard things were for me. Like my life is amazing right now. My God, man, I had to walk through hell in a gasoline suit to get there.
Yeah.
And, I think there's 3 things that I really think about, like for veterans that are going through these hard times. Anybody going through dark and difficult times is you got to ask for help, man. You got to receive help, and you got to give help. Yeah. One of the things I did early on, the first group was taught out the psychologist. Pretty reluctantly. And after a couple of sessions of us basically staring at each other and making him one-word answers, I warmed up a little bit and started talking to him a little bit more. And then he gave me those holistic ways to deal with the pain and the emotional suffering that I was under, and which, getting that emotional and mental suffering down was going to reduce your pain level, right? Yep. Which reduced your reliance on pain meds. Receive help. My wife, so much advocate, like I said, for me, and a tough wingler. She doesn't pull punches. Like I got out of the hospital, she already had plans for me to get off of my pain meds. Yeah. And when I had to go back on them the second time, pretty much, became addicted to them, right? When I got released from the Mayo Clinic, I was on 12 Percocets, 12 alum, and 2 Valium a day. So I had to work my way down from 26 pills, right? Over the course of 6 months, was able to get it down 2, 3, 4 a day, but couldn't kind of get that last crutch out there. She sits me down one day and she's like, hey, dude, that's it?
Yeah.
This is what you're going to do with the rest of your life. Do you think this is the way for you to honor your fallen brothers?
Yeah.
And dude, angriest I've ever been with her in my life. We've been together for 18, man, 17 years now. I was angry because she was right.
Yeah.
A lot of people have to understand when you're going through these hard, difficult times, people out there that want to help you. And you got to let them in, right? They're coming to help you because they love you, not because they're against you, right? And I think it also speaks to the job of loved ones. It's like, hey man, you can't let people feel sorry for themselves. You got to give hard truths and hard realities, right? You can't baby them through the situation. And give help, right? Like when you're going through a dark, difficult time, you're probably saying to yourself, like, how can I possibly help somebody else? But I guarantee there's always going to be somebody else out there that is worse off than you.
Yeah.
If you go out there and you help that person, it's going to give you a really good perspective on how lucky you have it in your life. It's going to give you a sense of purpose, and it's going to force you to keep that moral compass north, man.
Yeah, I was gonna say, man, I think that's why your story resonates with me so much, because there are especially times, man, when I was injured, and I looked at stories like yours, and I that's seriously what I told myself. I was like, do you know how much worse it could be? Do you? I mean, really, you know what I'm over here in a knee brace, man, and that I'm going to recover from.
Yeah.
Do you know how much fucking worse it could be? And I think that's probably the biggest thing is that it's mental warfare, man. It's games, because you play with yourself and you say things to yourself like, I'm never going to be the same. I'm not going to bounce back. Like, what am I going to do? What, poor me. Like, what am I going to do now that this happened? And you never realize that it's just, you have, there's so many people out there that have it so much worse. And but it's hard, man. It's hard to put yourself in that perspective at that time. When you're going through it, it's hard to sit and really reflect that way. And, that's why I enjoy hearing people like you talk, because a lot of times it for me at least, it does well, because I look back on the things that I've gone through, and then I look at stories like yours and I'm like, well, I wasn't shot and almost paralyzed. So, I think I'm doing okay today.
It's funny, man. The, like one of the pretty much first recollections, I have in the intensive care unit, a buddy of mine who had gotten hit with 2 grenades and had gotten shot like almost a year to the day earlier, comes in, gives a little chit chat. My stomach's cut open. I'm crying all the time. And he just looks me in the eyes and he's like, hey, listen, man, plain blue shot. Don't be a fucking pussy about this. And dude, I mean, that's the mentality I think you really have to have in a lot of these situations, right? Like it's, you can't feel sorry for yourself, right? I mean, don't get me wrong. There's plenty of times I did feel sorry for myself, but it can't become your frame of mind, right? Like,
can't become the lifestyle that you live. That's when and it is. It's when, that's what I was telling you. I was sitting here when I made the decision, like, hey, I'm going to go to selection, right? I was sitting here and it was probably like lunch, and Jordan was at work. I was just hanging out. Probably just got back from class. I was definitely, it was in class, and I get back and I was sitting here and I was kind of doing that. And I was going through. So my thing right now is I have my grandfather's World War II uniform, my dad's Vietnam uniform, and then I have my uniform, and I was going to get them all framed up and put up next together. And I started looking through all my stuff, and I was like, man, I really want to go SF. But I started doing that to myself. I started, well, man, you got med boarded out of the regular Army. Like, you hurt your knee. There's no way you're going to come back. And I really started just feeling sorry for myself. And I sat around for about 5 minutes. I called the recruiter and I was like, hey, man, this is my situation. I'm just putting feelers out there. I know you're probably going to tell me no. And he was like, nah, man, just send me your stuff. He's like, are you good to go right now? I was like, yeah, I'm running like a 13-minute 2-mile right now. My knee feels fine. He was like, you had no issues with it? I was like, yeah. He's like, yeah, man, send me all your documents. We'll get you in. I was like, but then I had to gut check myself, because then I was like, oh, shit.
Oh, I'm actually going to go do this.
Yeah, right? Exactly. Yeah. So, yeah, man, I think it speaks volumes, because it people and tying back to the topic of how veteran healthcare has changed in the last 4 or 5 years. It's taken guys like you to come out and speak, man. And so I think veterans, just not in the special operations community, veterans in general, are very thankful for guys like you, because we need people like that. We need people to speak up. When we just dropped the mental health episode, the first one we did about my dealing with depression and stuff like that, we had people reach out to us that were like, hey, man, I was thinking about killing myself, listen to your episode, and I just really appreciate it, because I didn't think guys like you went through that. And I was like, bro, I trust me. I was like, I got some deep, dark times in my life. I was like, I've been through it, man. And I was like, so and that's the mind frame, is people who are going through it, they don't think others are suffering too.
Well, and like, I think that's the thing that like a lot of people saw from me, and they'd be like, well, you're like the model veteran for transition and everything. And I'm like, thank you for that. I don't know that there's an exact model for it, but at the end of the day, right, like people think, the Harvard, MIT, like, working at Goldman Sachs, working at tech now, like there's a lot of struggles that I went through, right? And I mean, that's just a picture I try to paint candidly and say, like, if I can go through all these things and be in the place that I'm at right now, like you can definitely do it.
Yeah.
You can.
Well, yeah, human beings in general, especially in this generation, I don't think that they're both mentally and physically, I don't think that they realize what they're capable of. I don't think many people have realistically pushed their body or their mind to the point of breaking. I just don't. I feel like I don't think people are overly spoiled. I just don't think they've had to. There has not been a reason to.
I mean, I think that was like the mental toughness that I was able to gain through special forces training and deployments. It's nothing that I could have gained on my own. It purely I had to be put in these positions and pushed beyond something that I thought was never humanly possible.
Right.
To go through. Like there's no way that you'd be able to subject yourself to saying you're not going to eat for a week and not sleep for 3 days and like do 30-mile road marches and stuff like that. So.
Yeah. You're good. Is that you or me?
That's me.
Okay.
Jeff. Like.
But no, you're right, man. One thing that I always tell people when I look back on stuff is that we go through when you talk about selection, you talk about Q course stuff. It is very hard mentally, right, and physically is both, right. But if you go back and just look at some of the statistics from World War I or World War II, and even Korean War, go back and look at some of the actual statistics about how far these people marched, days they went without food, the type of equipment they were using, the type of shoes they had on. And it really puts it in perspective because all the knowledge that we have now of our generation, those guys just said, like, we don't have a choice. We have to do this. Doesn't matter if my boots are falling apart. Doesn't matter if I'm doing barefooted. I got to do this. Doesn't matter if I have trench foot. Doesn't matter if I'm shot. Whatever. I was telling a story the other day about my grandfather's Purple Heart, and I was like, it was so funny back then that the story was so common. But if you put it in today's perspective, it would have been a Medal of Honor in a heartbeat. But back then it was just a common feat. It was just something that somebody did, and so I think that we've transitioned. I don't believe that humans have become softer. I don't believe that us as Homo sapiens have become softer. I just think that we haven't had to be put in those positions to do these things.
Right. I mean, I think you're just always a product of your environment.
Right.
And what you kind of what shapes you. And I just think the human beings, though, are incredibly resilient, right? I think Americans are incredibly resilient, just given our nature and history of this country. So it's, I think at every level, right? Like, in World War II, people are like, wow, can we stand up to this challenge? We really think like, Americans can do it. People talk a lot of shit about millennials and stuff, but millennials have been fighting the DUAT for the past 18, 19 years here. And I think you're seeing it now, right? You're seeing how tough people are, how resilient people are, when they have to stand up, when they have to come together. Like that's happening right now, and it's going to continue to happen, and that's how we're going to get through all this.
Oh yeah. And that's the thing too, is I think that with all the negative stuff going on, it's easy to get wrapped up in that. But like I said, the positivity, I have been really blown away at what looked like it started out as a 10 push-up challenge on Instagram has now blown into my buddy Shelton out at 13 Bar has been doing these quarantine workouts. He's been throwing up, Go Ruck is still pushing all their stuff out, through all this. And I even put up, I run the little Go Ruck club we have here, and I put up in the thing the other day. I was like, hey, I just need to know, I'm going to be rucking on my own. Do you guys want to, you guys trying to ruck too? Like, just let me know. And immediately, comments back like, oh yeah, definitely, we're down to ruck, like, don't worry about it. So the sense of community, I think, is still there, and it not only is it still there, I think it's growing stronger. I think people are having to come together now in innovative ways, and I think it's humbling to me because I've always been about fitness, and I know you have too. But now just to see just like normal people, I saw something the other day. It cracked me up. It was a lady doing Russian twist, but she was doing it with a giant bottle of white wine. like an unopened bottle of white wine, Russian twisting. And I was like, okay, like, sure, man. Like, yeah, sure.
Doing what you got to do to get
Yeah,
by.
exactly. I was like, sure. So I think that's been the coolest thing is seeing all these things on Instagram, just and Facebook and Twitter of all these people just doing these like innovative stuff like at home. And then the other thing that I think blew me away is that I did not know how many people had home gyms. There's all kinds of people now. They're like, oh yeah, I turned my garage into a home gym. I'm like, oh, okay, man, good for you.
I've been an avid collector of gym equipment since I was 13. Like that's when I really got into working out. And so, my family we had a family business, and so when you own a family business, right, like you're in an entrepreneurship game, it's all hands on deck.
Right.
So we went to school, we played sports, we worked, right. So actually I had a decent amount of money for a kid because I was working all the time. So I would just invest in like gym equipment. And so, so like the same stuff I worked out when I was like 13 into 400 pounds of weights, barbells, dumbbells, squat, rack, heavy bags, sandbags down in my basement. And then, got all my bands down there too. Kids come down, we do workout. I got them circuits and stuff for them to do.
That's awesome.
My daughter told me she doesn't like doing squats. She sit her squat. And I'm like, that's the point, honey.
That's the point. So is the plan now Boston Marathon 2021?
It got moved to September 14th, which I think is actually pretty cool. Because it would have been too easy, right, for me to just have to train for this thing and run it, kind of given my story. So, I did a 20 miler, and I'll basically have to restart everything back to zero, and we'll have to train through the summer in August. But hey, adversity is a gift that we get, man, to just make us better human beings. So September 14th this year, and it's cool because my live date is September 25th.
Nice.
So this brings on a lot more significance, in my opinion, right? To be able to finish this on the 14th. It's 13 days after 9/11. It's 11 days before my live date. And so it's just going to make it that much sweeter when I cross the finish line. So then I had this other brilliant idea, because I get brilliant ideas quite a bit, especially around physical challenges. I said, well, that's pretty close to the New York City Marathon too. So I was like, well, you've done all the training, and you just have to do more long runs in between. So why don't you run New York also?
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, man, let's do it. Like, let's really hammer the stick home here.
That's awesome.
So I'll do Boston September 14th and New York on November 1st.
Nice. Yeah, one of our guys is
never running again, probably.
No, probably. Yeah, you take a break after that. Yeah, one of our guys is actually rucking the Boston Marathon.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. He's doing it for a buddy of his that passed away, and they raised some money. And so he's going to be doing that. So shout out Jake. He's actually out there in Boston right now. He's the Mass National Guard guy who's going 19th in Rhode Island.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. And
yeah, I'm raising money I'm on the TB12 team. Like, those guys have been amazing. I've been going there a couple of times a week, getting treatment, working out. They like videotape my stride.
Yes.
Like, your lift on your right leg is 13% higher. And I'm like, yeah, all right.
You're like, good, yeah, definitely. No, that's when I first got fitted for running shoot, like actual real running shoots, I went in and had them videotape me on that. And same thing. I it's just so funny because like normal dudes who just put in physical activity, it's not something that I really thought about. And they're like, hey dude, like your right gait, like the way you're coming out of it, like your foot's landing this way, it needs to like roll this way. And I was like, dude, you're gonna make me trip. I can't even think about that much stuff as I'm running. I was like, what are we talking about?
Yeah, I mean, so honestly, man, my running kind of reverted back to more mechanical in terms of like working with them on what I needed to do. And honestly, I was used to it, right? Because when I first started walking in after getting hurt, I'd have to think about every step that I took.
Right.
And if I didn't, like, I would fall over. So that, especially, right, you can get away with bad form for a couple miles here or there, but when you start logging like 15, 20-mile runs, like that is going to hurt you. So it worked with them quite a bit. And, to think like I'd be out on a 10-mile run thinking, okay, with every step, right, like push off harder with your left leg, activate your glutes here, keep your core stabilized, and just telling myself that until all of a sudden that becomes the normal thing you do, and the body's just used to it.
Did you have that fear after injury though of like, just really being almost overly concerned with how you were stepping and stuff, and like which way you were doing things? Because like my thing is that like even if I wasn't getting pain, if I felt like some kind of discomfort, I would completely almost change the way I was doing things in the wrong way. So like I did the Norwegian ruck march after I got injured, and I think it's like 18.6 and under like 4.5, and I found myself at like mile 12, like really starting to be like, man, am I fucking up my knee? Like, am I hurting my knee? And I wasn't. It just was me mentally so concerned about the injury that I was just like, just doubting myself.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, like the reason why I was able to get to where I'm at right now is because I just never like thought about it after that. Just was like, yeah, I'm going to defy these doctor's orders. And I'm going to do this. I mean, essentially, right? Like, especially when you have like the nerve coming back, trying to retrain your brain, right? So like try to do everything and make it feel and look like my leg still worked to get that activity going again. So, it was part of my whole effort to trick my body.
A little mind and muscle recovery. Are you I meant to ask you this. Are you going to be down at the Green Beret Foundation June 6th for the event?
So actually, yeah.
Okay.
That's the event we do up here in New Hampshire. It's the 6 Hour Academy. It's a day of like one-on-one shooting with current and former Green Berets. And then there's multiple Green Berets on staff at the academy up there. And so they help put the day on. Unfortunately, we made the call yesterday to cancel the event for this year. Just given what's going on right now, I think it's very wishful thinking that we'd be able to have a big gathering like that. Yeah. And, just giving people the strength financially right now with everything going on, the job, and the economy. Thought it'd be best to cancel it for this year, and we'll bring it back next year.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I'm actually glad you said that. I'm actually glad you said that though, because we had been planning on kind of coming out and doing everything. And I talked to Travis about it. So yeah, no, that's good. I mean, honestly, yeah, that's the thing too, is that especially with this new another 30 days topped on top of what we were doing already, I'm really curious to see how this plays out until the summer.
Yeah, but there is a way, that people can, because Green Berets still need help. Green Berets are still deployed. Yeah. They're going to be deployed throughout this. What you'll probably start seeing is a lot of Green Berets, especially the medics, that will be helping out a lot on the front lines here in this country. So I think it was back in 2007, 2018, I made a documentary.
Yep.
Like helmet camera footage, videos, interviews, and basically it's kind of like walking through my story and illustrating it. Because we have all the helmet camera footage from the day I was shot. And we did it with the intention, like I financed it myself, paid for everything. And we did it with the intentions of raising money for the Green Beret Foundation. And so when we premiered it, we raised like $35,000.
Yeah.
And then we did an online streaming option. So for only $10.
I would say it's the best $10 you can spend right now online. So yeah.
Yeah. Right. Like, hey, once you're done watching Tiger King, you need to go check out the War documentary. And it's $10. It goes to the Green Beret Foundation. All proceeds go to the foundation. So.
Yeah, and definitely check that out. Yeah, we, like I told you earlier, that was our big thing. 5 to 10% of our proceeds from all our sales go back to the Green Beret Foundation as well. I know Travis does his. It's a lot more companies logging on. And then I actually talked to Brent not too long ago. I think that Outer Regs Pomade is going to do a little, and they're actually giving like 25% back to the Green Beret Foundation. So very cool, man. It's cool to see a lot of these companies coming together and really and pushing stuff out. I don't know, man. I think so highly of Green Berets, and I think that there's still an aura around them of just excellence. I mean, realistically, that's why I think so many people, like-minded individuals, are so enthralled with the idea of going. I mean, it ate at me when I got out. Like, and it's so funny because I made the decision within like 20 minutes. I felt sorry for myself for 15, called the recruiter and said, yeah, that's what I'm going to go do. And I just think that I think there are, with the shortage of people they need, that is, let's see, we got 6 minutes. I did want to ask you about that. How much do you know about the new Q course or the updated Q course?
I don't know anything about it, so.
I was just curious. Well, that's fair. Then I don't have to grill you about it and ask questions on it. But I'm curious. A lot of people are not upset, I don't think, but I do know that we're at a shortage right now, so they're kind of pushing people through. And the feedback that I have gotten from other people is that they feel like maybe guys coming out now are undertrained, but then you go back and look at articles from, when they started the 18X program and the same things were being said then. So just was curious about it.
Hey, I say this, man, every Green Beret, they went to the last RDQ course.
It's 100% true. Yep. Kevin, man, hey, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciated it. Like I said, when it was proposed to me that you could come on, I thought at first they were joking. And because of the actual, when we were texting today and you're like, hey man, make sure you follow me. I was like, yeah, I needed to on my personal account. The podcast has probably been following you for a year. So I was really, excited to get you on. And I really believe that stories like yours are people that we need, man. And not just for the veteran community, but for America in general. I think it highlights, somebody said something to me the other day about, the reason that veterans are so, when you talk about marketing standpoints, with sales, they said it's not going to be the veterans that buy products or buy into the products. It's going to be the people that support them. And a lot of people, I don't think, realize how much support they have until they speak out. And you look at it, you look at a lot of things that you've done. I looked at a lot of the keynote speaker events that you've had, and it's I think it's pretty amazing the support that you've gotten and the humility that you have to be able to speak out about it and speak back to it. Because I mean, you don't have to do things like these, and I think that you need to know that it's appreciative that you do.
Well, I appreciate it, man. Thank you very much, and I appreciate what you're doing. Right, I know it's a huge lift on your part, but to have this outlet for not only just veterans but people in general to hear these stories, and I think it's very inspiring for a lot of people. If you want to learn more about my story too, you can go to my Instagram is @WoundedByWar. I have a Facebook page, Wounded by War. Follow me on LinkedIn, Kevin Flike on there. And if you want to really, close it with this, life presents us with like series of crucibles. This country, everybody, this world is going through a crucible right now. Some crucibles last a day, month, year. For some people, they have things that deal with their entire lives. But we need to make sure that we have the proper mindset when we receive these crucibles, right? Instead of being the negative mindset, keep the positive mindset and understand that these crucibles are just a gift for us. They're a gift for us to refine our character, to learn a lot of lessons that we wouldn't normally learn if we weren't put in positions. And then if we don't quit, if we don't give up, right, we're going to get to the other end of that, we're a better person for it. And so I think everything happening right now, I firmly believe that the world's going to get through this, the country's going to get through this. We're going to come out better for it.
I agree, man. I really do. And I think you're, completely correct. I think that a lot of people will, I really think a lot of people, especially American society, will come out better from this in the long run. I know right now it's hard to see that going through it, but I believe that a lot of people will become hardened by this, and not only that, more compassionate. I think that's the big thing that we've seen a lot with this is how compassionate human beings are. And as we spoke on earlier, I'm really glad that the medical field is really getting the highlight that I believe it deserves. So, well, hey, thank you, man. Kevin, as you said, you can check him out, Wounded by War on Instagram, Facebook. Go spend the $10 for the documentary. It goes back to the Green Beret Foundation, and it's actually a really good documentary. It's probably the best $10 I've spent on the internet in a while, except for my T-shirts. Yeah. Except for my T-shirts. Remember that. All right, guys. Hey, thank you so much. Check it out. Appreciate it. Hope you enjoy this episode. Good night, guys.
This episode is fueled by Frontier Coffee. Family owned, family operated. Fresh roasted coffee inspired by America's Wild West legends. Find Frontier on Facebook, Instagram, and online at frontiercoffee.com. Wake up and be legendary.